This is Bill Osborne, City Manager, and today I'll be talking with two department directors in the city government who have special responsibilities on the 4th of July holiday. 4th of July, Independence Day, is always a busy day in Douglasville, and when I come back I'll be talking with Marcia Hampton concerning the 4th of July parade. Then I'll talk with Tracie Ivey, our Parks and Recreation Director, about other activities that are planned on Independence Day this year. Stay tuned for that program on the agenda. I don't need to do a special introduction to my guest today because she's become almost a regular on the agenda. Marcia Hampton, who's making her third appearance, I guess, within the past 3 months, but welcome back.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.
And of course, Marcia Hampton is the city's Director of Community and Downtown Services. A number of things under her auspices: the Downtown Development Authority, our Main Street program, the Convention and Conference Center, Visitors Bureau, a number of activities, historic preservation, our liaison with the Chamber of Commerce and the Cultural Arts Council. So she has a full plate and does an excellent job with all of those, but we want to talk about one particular aspect that this time of year begins to take a lot of your time and the time of your staff. And I'm talking about, of course, the Independence Day Parade coming up July the 4th.
That's right.
So July the 4th is on a Friday. We're looking forward to having this parade. And so give us just a couple of highlights.
Well, the parade every year, July the 4th, starts at 10 a.m. and we typically have anywhere between 60 to 80 entries, and that could be a variety of either floats, persons walking, people entering in vehicles, and even horses. So it's usually a large event, the largest event that our department handles throughout the year. Right.
And of course, we've got the lineup on Fairburn Road, but if somebody wants to watch the parade, where would you suggest they position themselves?
Along Church Street, which is the longest portion of the parade. I would recommend them definitely parking in one of either the city parking lots or the bank's parking lots, and then you can get out, have your chair placed out on Church Street early, about 9 o'clock in the morning, to get out, to get your spot ready so you can watch the parade.
Right. Well, of course, the Independence Day Parade has a long history in Douglasville. In fact, when I became city manager about 18 years ago, the Douglas County JCs were the sponsors of the parade, and then after they decided no longer to sponsor the parade, the city government stepped in because we felt like that this was a very important event in the community. I mean, parades are great, and what better parade could you have than to have an Independence Day parade to celebrate our nation's independence. And over the last 15 to 16 years, Marcia, I've been at the front of the parade helping with the lineup at that point, being sure we had all of those initial entries in place. Chief Wisnett, the police department, he and I have had this routine, and we synchronize our watches to be sure that we tell everybody, 5 minutes till starting time, and then at 10 o'clock sharp, he'll turn that siren on his police car, and so we'll officially start the parade one more time. And of course, Chief Wisnett, for a number of years, has led the parade, and then we also have Douglas County Sheriff Phil Miller. We'll have a group of our city motorcycle officers, the Police Department Color Guard, Mayor Mickey Thompson, Commission Chairman Tom Worthen, some members of the City Council, some members of the Board of Commissioners, our Grand Marshal, and then a band composed of students from the several high schools here in Douglas County. And of course, our Grand Marshal this year is Catherine Sheehan. Ms. Sheehan, former school superintendent here, elected twice to be the school superintendent, also a former teacher and principal. probably a lot of people who will be there watching the parade will be former students of hers, or certainly know about Ms. Sheehan. She's been in this community very active for many, many years, served on a lot of boards and commissions, and will be, of course, an excellent Grand Marshal for us in 2008. But there will be a lot more people in this parade than just those that are at the front of the parade. So I know you mentioned floats. Tell us something about the floats and what are you expecting in the parade this year?
Well, as you know, a few years ago, we've kind of had a little drop-off in float entries in the parade. So last year, what we tried to do as a city was enter a float again. We hadn't entered one in several years. So we wanted to bring back that motivation of people entering in floats. Yet last year, we had about 10 floats. This year, we want to double that number. Our goal is to get about 20. The more floats, of course, it makes things fun for the kids, and a lot of the churches, various civic organizations, or some of the business such as Greystone, they always enter in floats. So we like to encourage floats because, of course, you want to see that in a parade. That makes a parade.
Absolutely. Now, if someone wants to enter a float, what do they need to do? What information can they get online? Or tell us about fees and other expectations for the floats.
Well, we've kept our fees fairly low. We haven't changed them. It's still $15, regardless if you want to enter a float or if you just want to walk in the parade. We do have some instructions in the office on how to build a float. We are not asking you to go out and get an architect to design anything. You just get pretty much a trailer, a low boy in the back, and you build the ramps and the railings, and we have those instructions for safety measures as well. But it's fairly simple. It takes a little bit of time, but I think overall it's worth it definitely for the community to see different individuals entering in floats.
Right. And of course, for any of our viewers who have an interest in entering a float, as you mentioned, there are certain safety precautions that we insist on, both for safety for the riders on the floats as well as the participants. And time doesn't permit us to go into any of the details on that, but as you mentioned, anybody that contacts your office to get information on the float, they'll know exactly about the safety precautions. And we do urge people to abide by those, because we have had a couple of situations in the past that people didn't pay any attention to that, and we couldn't let those floats go forward. Correct. It wouldn't be fair to the other people that had the floats. Now, when you talk about the floats, I know we've got some different categories. Tell us about if I wanted, with my organization or my church or business wanted to enter a float, am I competing against everybody, or how does that work?
Well, traditionally you would not have been competing against everybody when we had a large number. Since our numbers have gone down, we've changed it just a little bit to 4 different categories on design, originality, best float design toward the theme, and then overall winner. Okay. So there's 4 opportunities to win in 4 different categories, but once we do start to reach our goal of getting more float entries, then we can go back to what we had several years ago, where you can compete against all the businesses, the churches, and various civic organizations.
Right. So if my group were planning to do a float, I just need to be concerned about the creativity and the originality of it, and just have something that everybody would enjoy. And I know from our city employees last year that it takes a lot of work to do it, but I think they had a great time in the process, and certainly what they did was very exciting, and we were proud of them for what they did. But now, suppose I don't want to do a float. We just want to be in the parade. Okay. What can we do by being in the parade? Do we have to walk? Can we be in a car, or what?
You can enter in a vehicle, you can walk in the parade, or you can ride your horse. There's, not much that we say that you can't do. We do have a restriction on the limited amount of space. We basically view the space as 3 car lengths. So whatever you can fit in that, you can have in it. So for instance, if you had a truck pulling a trailer, that would equal the 3 car lengths. And you are held to a maximum of 2 spaces. So we won't allow you to have 10 cars in the parade. You can only have 6. That limits you.
Okay. Now, if if I were entering my horse, and my wife would tell you that's not going to happen since I'm not a rider, but for those who are, and they enter their horses, the horses are at the end of the parade.
That's correct.
And so just want to be sure that anybody understands, we welcome your horses, but horses as a group are at the end of the parade. Now, I know a few years ago the city adopted a resolution that said on Independence Day, Church Street would be known as the Patriotic Mile. And I know each year that there's a different theme that your department selects. Tell us about this year's theme and what this means in terms of the floats.
This year's theme is Stars and Stripes Forever. I wish I could say that there was a magic way to figure it out, but there is actually a federal website that is dedicated to 4th of July's and municipalities, and they recommend certain themes. So this year, Stars and Stripes Forever was one that was recommended. So when we send out the letters, and we have sent those out this week, to our previous participants, we try to encourage them to say when you're decorating your float, it could be dedicated to the flag, it can be dedicated to the star. So think about how you create what you're going to present to the community based on the theme.
Right. Okay, very good. Well, I hope we have great weather on the 4th of July this year. Hope we have a big turnout. We do remind people that a lot of times on the 4th of July it's very hot. We do on a number of people will be selling things before the parade, different kinds of trinkets and so forth, as well as water. But might be a good idea if you're coming to the parade, in addition to bringing a chair to sit in, is to bring some water in case you get too hot. We want everybody to be kept safe during that time. But I know the City Council earlier this year, as it was looking ahead to the parade, and let me just, for our viewers, read from that resolution. It said Independence Day 2008 will start with an exciting parade through downtown Douglasville, carrying on that wonderful American tradition where citizens of all ages can enjoy pageantry and patriotism with their fellow countrymen as many groups come together for this event and the wonderful spirit of this unique American holiday. And of course, Independence Day is the unique American holiday, and we're all looking forward to it this year. I'm going to give you the last word on this part of On the Agenda. To anything more that you want to tell us about the parade and the 4th of July?
I just want to encourage everyone, if they, if you're interested, entering in a float is something that we do want to build up. Fox 5 News for the last couple years have been there, so you can find yourself on the national, or at least on the local news. And plus it builds camaraderie with your organization, with yourself, for the community. The kids like it, and I know that for the city employees who were involved last year with building the float, that they had a good time, and I think it was fun, and the float just looked really nice. So if I could encourage that, I would like to encourage that a little bit more. So,
okay.
All right.
And then what happens after the parade's over? After
the parade, everyone goes to Hunter Park and enjoy some barbecue, and I think that you'll probably be talking to Tracie Ivey about the good barbecue that they're going to have.
I will be. You start us off with a bang in the morning with a parade. We conclude with a bang in the evening with fireworks. Marcia, as always, it's great to have you on the agenda.
All right, thank you.
My second guest on this edition of On the Agenda is Tracie Ivey, longtime Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Douglasville. Tracie, I've watched your program on City TV, but this is the first time that you've been on my program, so welcome.
I appreciate the opportunity, Bill. I look forward to it.
Right. Well, I talked earlier in this program with one of your fellow department director, Marcia Hampton. Marcia, of course, is our Community and Downtown Services Director, and her department is responsible for, of course, the Independence Day Parade. And that parade starts at 10 o'clock, but of course, much earlier in the morning, we will have the entries coming in, lining up on Fairburn Road. We'll have people coming in shortly after 8 o'clock to get the best seats along the parade route. And I know that although events in Hunter Park don't officially kick off until about the time the parade is over, you've got activities that start hours in advance. Tell us what's going on before the general public arrives on the 4th of July.
Well, you're right. I know things start very, very early on the 4th, the day of the event, of the parade, actually. I'm never there because I'm always at the park, like you mentioned, trying to make sure things are in place logistically. And we start those activities the day before, which this year will be on Thursday, July 3rd. And basically what we do that day is my staff is just busy keeping the park, getting the park picked up, cleaned up, ready for the big crowd that we will have, that you're very much aware of the numbers that will come in on July the 4th. As well as Share House will be setting up for their venues and activities also on the 4th. So it's a very busy day prior to the 4th, and then of course the day of the 4th is always a busy day for us.
Right. And I know for people who have been there before and those who have not that may want to come, a lot of activities at Hunter Park on Independence Day. We have the Old Timers softball game, we have train rides, we have various events for children. We have swimming, we have a children's beauty pageant, a baby contest, arts and crafts. You mentioned the Share House with the barbecue, the popular Douglasville Idol Talent Showcase, and a political forum. In other words, we got something for everybody.
Yes, sir, we do. We have, we run the gamut. We have, weather permitting, we have something for every age group, the very young to the very old, and we just have a really, really good day. I see people on July the 4th that I haven't seen since last July 4th,
right.
So it's a very good day to regather and say hellos, and we just enjoy the day thoroughly.
Great. Well, for people who are coming to Hunter Park on Independence Day, of course they can enter by Gurley Road. That's the main entrance that always is open. But on the 4th, if they want to come in the back side of the park up Pinecrest Drive, they can do so. Park security will be there to help with parking. And although it gets kind of crowded sometimes with the crowds, generally we can work people in. But if you want to avoid the heavy congestion, vehicle congestion next door, the Board of Education parking lot usually doesn't have that many cars, and you can do that and kind of walk across from there and get into the park. But let's talk a little bit about these activities, and let's start with the Old Timers softball game.
Well, that goes back for many, many years. This year will mark the 54th year of what is now called the Old Timers game. And it started back in 1954, and it was a city versus county Old Timers competition. Okay. And it was held down at the Old Mill baseball field. It was the only field in the county that had lights, and that was the very first year that it was held there. Mm-hmm. And the name of the event is actually the Chandler-Thompson Old Timers game. Right. So this marks the 54th year. They will be back again this year. A lot of new faces, I'm sure. You have to be 40 years and older to play, so I could be the bat girl because I fit that age group. But anyway, these guys get out and they have a lot of fun. They play 2 games. They start at 6 o'clock, and it's really fun to watch. So I'd encourage anybody to come out and take a look at that.
Boy, talk about tradition. Now, I know that will be exciting, and what could be more traditional than an Old Timers game on Independence Day? But let's move down a number of years because you got a baby contest and you've got a contest for children's beauty pageant. Tell us about those, and if somebody's got a child, a baby that they want to sign up, how do they do that and so forth?
Well, we do. We have a beauty pageant. This is the 14th year that we've actually held this in the park. It'll be held upstairs on the dance floor. If most people are familiar with the Ike Owens Recreational Center. Deborah Watkins is the actual coordinator of the event, and I have a phone number that I can give you. Her phone number is 770-562-1233, and you need to contact her if you have an applicant that'd like to be a participant. The cost is $25 for the beauty category, and then you can pay another $25 to be in the best categories, which include up to 5 different categories for both boys and girls. So there's 5 categories for the girls, 2 categories of beauty for the boys, or 2 age groups for the boys, and it's a very popular event, and we really enjoy it.
Right. How about the baby contest?
It's included in that information. It's $25 to enter if you're the age groups are 0 years up to 20 and older. So it's $25 for the beauty.
Very good. Now, I know another competitive event that we have at Hunter Park on Independence Day is the Douglasville Idol Talent Showcase. Tell us about that.
Right. The Idol Showcase is relatively new. We have auditions this year on June the 14th, and those will actually be held at Hunter Park in the conference room. And it's $25 to enter. You have to be at least 10 years old, and there's about 5 different categories. It's all solo performances. And you can contact the Share House for more information on that, and the Share House's phone number is 770-949-0626. So that's becoming a very popular event as well this year. And this year we'll have a special guest judge, which will be Douglasville's own Alexandria Leshington. So we're looking forward to having her on site as a judge this year.
Well, great. And for a certain group of adults, they'll also have their own showcase. That's called the Political Forum. We expect to have a number of candidates for office, Douglas County office, this being a county election year, as well as for the state senate and the state house. Maybe some statewide people will be there, but they will be on the stage outside near where Share House will be serving barbecue, and we expect several campaign stump speeches to take place. But if any of the candidates are watching and they want to sign up, what do they need to do?
All the candidates that have declared their candidacy will receive a letter from Doris Isaacs, and Doris Isaacs is with the Share House Board, and they will actually be coordinating the political forum this year. I'm not quite sure who's going to be emceeing that, but you will register through Doris Isaacs, and you will be getting something. If you're an applicant, a candidate, you'll be getting something in the mail from her. Okay. We'll give you all those instructions at who to register with, what time, and generally that event starts around 1 o'clock on the 4th out at the park. Okay.
Now I know that our City Parks and Recreation Department has 2 ticketed venues that will be operating on the 4th of July. One of these is the swimming pool. Tell us the operating hours and the ticket prices for anybody that wants to cool off by taking a dip in the pool.
Yeah, actually, it's really funny. You would think on the 4th it would be so hot, your swimming pool would be full, but it's quite the opposite. It's so hot, nobody wants to get out, really. But if you do, our prices to get in the swimming pool for 2 sessions is $2 per session, or it's $3 for all day. And if it rains, then we'll still let you in the swimming pool as long as it's not thundering. So we have a very good turnout usually for the swimming pool on the 4th, though. But $2 for per session and $3 all day if you like to swim. Those are our regular rates for the rest of the year as well.
Okay. And, of course, the other venue is a very popular train ride. This year people will be riding on a rebuilt train. Tell us what the city has done over the winter with the train and what it will cost to take a train trip on July the 4th.
Okay. We're very excited about the train. We are having it restored as we speak. We normally are operating the train right now, but it was a very extensive project. The project included restoration of the locomotive itself, the rebuilding of some select body parts. We were having the cars rebuilt, which was the passenger cars. We're having all the undercarriages rebuilt, the wheels, the axles, almost every component that you can think of is actually being restored. So we're very excited about that opportunity. The rates for the train is $2 per person, and that gets you 2 laps around the lake.
Okay, great. Well, I know we'll have a lot of people probably taking advantage of both of those venues. But now you've got arts and crafts that also will be different vendors. Tell us about that.
The arts and crafts portion of the day's events is something that the Parks and Recreation Department actually handles, and we will be sending out applications to all the candidates. People that have participated in the past from the arts and crafts show standpoint will also get an application if they'd like to return. And you just basically rent a space. You rent a space and you bring your own tent, bring your own setup. It's about $30 for an individual to rent a space. And we have a good turnout. And this year we should have a lot of candidates out. I know this is a big political year, so we'll have a lot of space taken this year. So, but you, if you're a candidate in particular, you'll get something from the Parks Department. And if you're a returning craft vendor from last year, you'll also get something in the mail from the Parks and Recreation Department. Okay.
Tracie, we appreciate those reports, and as we begin to wrap up our discussion about Hunter Park on July the 4th, Share House, of course, will have its barbecue and everything, and we have provided this opportunity to Share House for a number of years. That organization, of course, does a great service in our community with basically dealing with women and their children who are in abusive situations. You know, this has not only been a good relationship in terms of giving them a good fundraising venue, but they take a tithe of their profits and give it back to the city, and then you're able to use those funds where we have people who need some financial assistance with different park and recreation activities.
Yes, sir.
So tell us about what Share House will be doing this year.
Well, just to touch a little bit on what you mentioned about the funds that they give back to the Parks and Recreation Department, we do use those funds to help benefit families that aren't able to put their children in day camp programs or participate in baseball or softball or soccer programs. Anything that we are able to help families out in the local community with those funds is where we use those funds. So we're very fortunate. They have really big sales that day on their barbecue. They do a really, really good job. Iron House BBQ is going to be catering the meal this year. You can get a plate for $7 at the park that day, and it's a very good meal, very good opportunity. They'll also have a concession stand out there all day with snow cones, popcorn, those kinds of food products. Right. They'll have a raffle, which is all this is a fundraiser for them. So they'll have a raffle for different things, and there'll be 3 winners in the raffle. They'll have a carnival for the kids. They'll have face painting and moonwalks and those types of events, as well as the idol and great food. So they do a really big job for their organization and for the city as well on that day.
Right. So be a full day in Hunter Park. Now, from the city standpoint, our Independence Day festivities begin to conclude about the time it gets dark, because then we shift over to the West Pines Golf Club for the annual fireworks. And for people who have been to the fireworks, you know the best viewing is in Arbor Place Mall, that parking lot on the I-20 side, or up at Sam's Walmart, though you can see it in other places. But it's always a great fireworks display. It's almost directly across I-20 from the Olive Garden restaurant for people that have not been before and may want to come this year. But tell us a little bit about the arrangements we have for the fireworks this year.
We use a company from Marietta called Atlanta Pyrotechnics. They've been our vendor for the last number of years that I've been involved, which is virtually every year that I've been here with the fireworks show. And they do a really good job. They send out very highly qualified technicians to shoot the show. They are in tune with the weather from as early on as around lunchtime that day, in case we have to shoot the show earlier or whether we have to call it off. So they work well with us as well as with the fire department and with the city in general as that day approaches, and even on that day as far as the weather goes. So they have a really good show. It's generally an 18 to 20 to 22 minute show. It varies. It will vary always, but we have the same program as we've had last year, and I've been real pleased with the show that we've had the last few years.
Okay. Well, fireworks certainly is a great conclusion to a wonderful Independence Day celebration. And by the time the show is over, I imagine for you and your staff, you're ready to call it a day. I'm sure that's the case with our Community and Downtown Services Department that will have been responsible for the parade. Of course, our Maintenance Department will have been out before dawn putting up barricades for the parade and other things. Sanitation Department works all day. Of course, the Police Department is directing traffic at the parade, dealing with the fireworks, and our city TV crew, they'll be working all day on it. So, but I want to say to all of our city employees that we certainly appreciate the hard work that they do on Independence Day, because I think it does make for a wonderful time of celebration for our citizens. Now, when people wake up on Saturday morning, July 5, if they still want to celebrate Independence Day just a little more, we've got something that takes place that the city is sponsoring as part of our Independence Day weekend, namely the 15th Annual Horseshoe Tournament at Davis Park. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, Bill, you're right. We have our 15th Annual Horseshoe Tournament. Charles Thomas, our center manager at the Hawthorne Center at Jesse Davis Park, has coordinated that for the last 14 years. And he has a really good turnout with very talented horseshoe throwers, very talented. So in order to get involved in that, you can contact Charles at 770-920-3007, and he can tell you about how to get registered. But it's $5 for singles, $10 for doubles, and it's a double elimination bracket, and it's a very fun-filled day. So And I believe that starts, Bill, at 11 a.m.
Great. Well, we appreciate you being with us for this edition of On the Agenda. We'll have you back another time to talk about some other activities in our Parks and Recreation Department. But for now, this is Bill Osborne on the Agenda. Well, thank you for joining me today for this edition of On the Agenda. Let me just say that I hope on 2008 Independence Day that you have a wonderful, safe, and happy Independence Day. If you're able to enjoy some of the festivities in Douglasville, we hope you will do so. I just want to say in closing that it's great to live in the land of the free and the home of the brave, and I'm glad that you were able to be with us today for On the Agenda.